Conventional wisdom says that you should never delete images on your camera. Well, there are some technical reasons that doing this can be less than ideal. There's also a lot of mysticism around this as well, especially when it relates to today's cameras and flash media. And that's it. We're talking about deleting images today on the EOS R5, and that's what our tech tip for the day is going to be. Now, as usual, a quick disclaimer applies here. We are talking about a software function in this video, and as such, almost all of what I'm going to cover applies to Canon's other EOS R series cameras like the R6, the R3, and so on. Now that said, all of the testing and demonstrations that you will see in this video were done using the EOS R5 running firmware version 2.0. That means if you are using another Canon camera, you may find that some of the options I cover don't exist, or that your camera has options that I don't cover because they don't exist on the R5. Or perhaps that things aren't located in the same place in the menus as I described them. Now, before I talk about deleting images on your camera, I want to briefly touch on why you might not want to, or some of the arguments that are made for that. Contrary to some of the more overstated dangers, modern cameras will not corrupt your cards when you delete an image. In fact, I'm not actually aware of any camera that did that. Then the question is, well, what is the problem with deleting images on a camera anyway? And that comes down to three things. First of all, there is no undo. Once an image is deleted, it's gone, and there's no easy way to recover it. Now, the other two problems are technical in nature and relate to performance and wear. Put simply, discs, including the flash media that we use on our cameras, perform better when working with continuous blocks of data. For example, if we had three files, three images, A, B, and C, written out to our card, it might look like this. This would be the ideal situation, as all the files are written out as one continuous chunk of data each. And this is what our card might look like, at least logically, if it was freshly formatted and we started shooting pictures. Now, what happens if we come back and delete file B? Well, now we have a free space hole. There's free space in between other used space. Now, the question then is, what happens when we shoot our next image? Well, the first available free space on our disk is now at address 101. And if the image fits in the 52 blocks that's available there, then it can be written there as one complete file, and that's great. However, if it's bigger than the 52 blocks, it has to be broken into more than one piece or fragment and written to separate places on the memory card. The more files we delete, the more fragmentation we potentially have, and ultimately, writing fragmented files is slower than writing unfragmented ones. Now, that said, for most shooters, especially photographers, the impacts of this are negligible. However, there is one case where this can be a problem, and that's for video shooters who are using cards that just meet the minimum write speed requirements for the bit rates that they're recording at. In those cases, the performance loss due to fragmentation can cause the recording to be ended prematurely because the card can't keep up with the data that you're creating. Now, the other problem I mentioned is card life. NAND flash, the memory technology that's used in all of our memory cards, is worn slightly every time it's erased, and it has to be erased before it can be rewritten to. It then follows that your cards will last slightly longer if you only erase them once each time they're full instead of erasing parts of the card repeatedly. Well, at least that's the argument. In reality, that constant erasure is already happening as the file system, which is the part of the card that's the information that stores where our files are and how big they are and where to find them for our computers and so forth. It's stored on the same NAND flash media as the images are. And it needs to be updated every time a new image is created, which means it has to be rewritten. Moreover, the NAND cells can be written many hundreds of times, though truthfully it's hard to find precise life expectancy information, at least for flash cards, but not solid-state drives. On top of all of that, modern high-performance flash cards, especially CF Express cards, are going to have a controller in them that is doing some kind of wear leveling. This process distributes writes in a way that uses the cells evenly instead of having a few cells that are just repeatedly erased and rewritten. Although ultimately, with the amount of erasure that you'd probably be doing on your camera, none of this would really matter that much. And put simply, with respect to lifetime or wear life, unless you're filling your cards on a daily basis, you should never really have to worry about wearing them out. So with that said, let's take a look at how to delete images and videos on the R5. Now, most of you are probably going to be familiar with the first method I'm going to talk about here, which is to use the erase button when the camera is in playback mode to erase a single image. So if we jump into playback or review mode on our camera by pressing the playback button, we can then navigate to the image that we want to use or to delete. Once you've selected the image that you want to delete and it's on screen, you simply press the erase button here. Now, when you do this, you will be prompted with an on-screen display to either erase the image or cancel this operation. By default, the camera will select the cancel option, so you will have to take positive action to confirm that you actually want to delete the current image or movie. Remember, there's no undo, so to delete it, you would have to select erase and then hit set. Now, if you are shooting in a RAW plus compressed format, so compressed formats being either JPEG or HEIF, you've recorded a voice memo, you will be presented with some additional options to choose from. Choosing erase will, of course, erase both the RAW, the non-RAW image, and the voice memo. Basically, everything that's associated with that picture will be gone when you hit erase. However, you will also have the option to erase the RAW image only, the non-RAW image only, or the voice memo only. Now, while cancel is the selected option by default when this menu comes up, you can change the default settings on page 4 of the custom functions menu. The options you're looking for is called default erase option. It's third down from the top. Here you can change the default action to erase any of the previous options that I just discussed. However, note, if you select RAW, J/H or JPEG/HEIF, or voice memo, and none of those are available with the currently selected image, the camera will default to selecting cancel, not erase. However, erasing a single image is not the only way you can erase images on your camera. You can erase a range of images as well. This is done using the Erase Images menu found on the Play 1 menu page. In the Erase Images menu, you will find 4 different options that you can select from. Select and erase images, select range, all images in folder, and all images on a card. So let's take a look at these options and what they do and how to use them. And I'm going to start with the last one, erase all images on card, and work backwards because I think this is a little bit clearer to understand what's going on. Now, at first glance, erase all images on card sounds an awful lot like formatting your card, though it's not, both technically and for other reasons. The difference here is that how the camera handles your protected images and other images that are outside of or other files, I should say, that are outside the image range on your card. Formatting your card will erase every single image and file on it. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you backed up your camera menu settings to a file on the card, that file will be deleted when you format the card. However, all of the options in this menu respect the protection flag if it's applied to your image and only apply to images and movies. So if you have that file or menu settings backup file, it won't get deleted. In other words, this setting will erase every image on your card that isn't protected. So how do you protect an image then? Well, by default, images can be protected or unprotected a couple of ways. First is through the Protect Images menu on the Play 1 menu page. Using that menu, you can protect a single image, a range of images, or all of the images in a folder on the card. You can also clear the protection status of all of the images in a folder or on the card as a whole. You can also protect your images through the Quick Control menu when you are in review mode. So when you're what you're looking for is the key icon in the top left corner. Simply into review mode, navigate to the image you want to protect and press the Quick Control menu button. That's the Q with the little box around it. And select the key icon and then select Enable to protect the image or Disable to turn the protection off if the image is already protected. Now, a final way to do this is to configure the Rate button to toggle image protection. You'll find the setting for this on the Play For menu under the Rate/little microphone icon button functionality. Now, by default, pressing the Rate button will add a star to your image's rating, and holding it will record a voice memo for that image. However, if you set this to the second entry up from the bottom in this menu, Protect in parentheses hold record memo, then pressing the Rate button will toggle the image's protected status, preventing it from being deleted either when using the Image or Erase Images menus or the Erase button on the back of the camera. Now, going back to the Erase Images menu, the next setting up on the list is All Images in a Folder. This will do the same thing as the All Images on Card entry, but only for a selected folder of images. Now, if you're not familiar with creating folders on your camera, I will do a future video on that in more detail because naming things is pretty useful. However, the short of it is that through the top entry of the Record function plus Card/Folder Select menu on the Setup One menu page, you can create and select folders to organize your images as you shoot them. Anyway, back to the Erase Images menu. Moving up one more entry, we come to the Select Range option. Select Range is useful when you want to select a continuous range of images on your card to delete. Say, for example, when you were shooting at 20 frames per second and motor drive your foot accidentally. When you select this option, you'll be presented with a grid of images. Navigate to the first image you want to select, and then press the Set button or straight in on the multi-controller to select that as your first image. Then you use the multi-controller rear dialer touchscreen to select the last image in the sequence that you want to delete. Now, as each image is selected, a check mark will appear on the top left corner of the thumbnail to indicate that it has been selected for deletion. Now, if you need to view your image more precisely to hone in on the specific image you want to start or end on, you can zoom in or out using the second quick control dial. That's the one around the mode button on the top of the camera. The camera will also tell you how many images have been selected for deletion in the top left corner of the screen. Now, once you've selected the images you want to delete, simply press the quick control button to delete them or menu to step back out of the operation. You can also change the first and last selected image, so the range that you're using, at any time using the Set button. One other thing to note is you can select forwards or backwards. First and last here doesn't correspond to the earliest and the latest image by shooting time or the order that they're shown on screen. Only the first image that you select for the range and the last image you select for the range. Now, the final entry in the Erase Images menu is the Select and Erase Images entry. Using this, you can select images individually as opposed to in a continuous range. Selecting this option will present you with a 3-up overview or thumbnail view of your images. Selecting an image and pressing Set will select the selected image. However, you can then continue to scroll through your images and select additional images. You can also zoom in to examine the image in more detail using the second quick control dial on the top of the camera. Now, when using the touch screen, be aware you can tap either the checkbox in the upper left corner to select that image or the Set Virtual button that's towards the bottom of the screen. The same applies when you are zoomed in to zoomed out, I should say, to the 3-image overview view. Tap the image you want to select and then tap either the Set Virtual button or the checkbox under that image to select it. Finally, you can use these menus together to make more complex selections. So, for example, you could select a range of images, and then instead of hitting the quick control button to delete them, you could hit the menu button to go back to the Erase menu page, where then you could use either the range or select image options to further fine-tune the images that you actually want to remove. Now, that said, exiting out of the Erase Images menu all the way, either to the top-level playback menu or half pressing the shutter release to get out of the menus completely, will deselect any images that you've selected and clear all of that. Now, with all of that said, let me talk briefly about what I do with my cards. Reality is, in general, I don't delete images off my cards, either on my camera or my computer, until the card is full. Now, there's no technical reason that I do it this way. It's really just simply laziness. It's far easier for me to just keep shooting and downloading and then delete everything at the end than doing it on the fly. This is especially true in photography since I use Adobe Lightroom and it will do old image or existing image detection and skip downloading them again. Now that said, if I am in the field and I need the free space because I don't have more cards to work with, well, I will go through and delete images that I can clearly see on the camera are bad or accidental exposures. This is especially true for videos, largely because they are so much larger in size that deleting a video that's a bad take or a mistake or an accidental recording can free up so much space that could be used for another recording or other images that I find it worthwhile to not do or to prune those, at least in the field when I am working with a limited amount of cards. That said, I hope you found this useful, or at least interesting. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button. Also, if this kind of thing seems like it might be your kind of thing, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Finally, if you'd like to help and support this channel, you can help us for free by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and leaving a comment with your experiences. Likewise, you can support us by hitting that thanks button or buying yourself something you've always wanted from one of the affiliate links in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.